Yeah, it snowed. That car, I'm not moving it right now. It's underneath the snow is like straight ice, and so there's really no point. Like, I can't steer it anyway all the way down that hill and then back up the hill to get on the road. There's no freaking way. So yeah, it's a lot of snow though, more than we usually get. I mean, this is Kentucky after all, you know. You don't want to go out there, bro. You think you do, but you don't. Hey. Some of you guys may have already heard about this. It's one of those things that's going around now, you know. There's always a thing, right? Always a thing, especially with social media now. A thing that everybody's doing or everybody wants. This is probably one of the, well, that's hard to say. I was gonna say it's probably one of the dumber ones, but
Target shoppers fighting to get their hands on the limited edition Valentine's Day Stanley Cup.
So one early morning, people started lining up at 4 in the morning at Targets to go get a Stanley tumbler.
I just want a video. This is funny.
This dude tried to cut the line for the Starbucks X Target Stanley Cup, but we were not having it.
Now there's also this special Target kind of limited edition tumbler for Valentine's Day. The only difference is there's a small little heart on it. It's just a standard colored Stanley, but there's a small little heart for Valentine's Day. And people were just running through the stores. They had to have police officers.
it's one of those things. Where'd it come from? I mean, Stanley, they've made thermoses, right? You know, since before I was born. I think the company has actually been around since the early 1900s. I remember seeing Stanley thermoses, Stanley cups. Stanley was just a brand of something you put coffee or beverages in. I mean, it wasn't a thing. Like, it was just the company that made that stuff. And now, suddenly, it's a thing. Like, everybody has to have one. The company's been around for probably over 100 years. Been making the same stuff. So what changed? How did they make some kind of innovation with their products or something? Revolutionary step forward in cup temperature tech? No, none of that happened. What happened is they changed some CEO or something. It was the guy that made Crocs popular. I guess there was like a Croc craze at one time, like everybody had to have them. I don't know. Whatever it was, I remember that Crocs, like Crocs this, Crocs that. Everybody's wearing Crocs, everybody wanted Crocs. It was a thing, right? It was a thing that you heard of. It's just a stupid shoe. They use Crocs at the jail. Just a rubber freaking shoe. And it was this huge thing. Apparently the guy that was responsible for that type of marketing got hired by Stanley or took over something at Stanley. I don't know, it has something to do with Stanley now. And now he instituted, I guess, the same kind of social media advertisement or whatever he did there. And now Stanley Cup, whatever technique this guy uses or whatever his methods are to advertise via social media. I mean, I have to hand it to him, right? Like, he's good at it, obviously. As far as advertising goes and social media advertisement, I mean, the guy knows what he's doing. That's not the problem. The problem is that these products have been around for a while. There's plenty of insulated cups out there. And now suddenly everybody wants this one kind. You're probably wondering why I'm even talking about this, right? But I was thinking about it. And this came out of nowhere. Like, I saw a few videos on it. I didn't even know it was going on. I didn't even know it was a thing. It's the social media aspect, right? Like, you know, we hear a lot of debates. Like, a lot of people talk about, oh, is social media good for us or is it bad for us? I think most people lean towards the negative, probably for good reason, with whatever technique they use for this advertisement. And it's not just the Stanley Cup thing, right? Like, like I said at the beginning, there's always a thing. And then it'll die off, right? Like, it'll go away, and then it just stops being a thing. I wonder to myself, like, how do supposedly intelligent humans get, like, so wrapped up in this? Like, how do you go from, like, say a product, okay? These are Raycons. I've had them for a while. You can't really tell. It's pretty worn off. They stay in my pocket. Raycon earbuds. Like, say for instance, Raycon were to suddenly make a huge push in advertisement, because right now they're not really too well known. I mean, some people hear about them. You hear a lot of advertisements on, YouTube or whatever. Say suddenly they were to institute this kind of structured social media advertisement, and then suddenly everybody wants Raycons and everybody knows what Raycons are. How does that work? How do you go from, it's just earphones, and it's the name of a company that makes earphones, earbuds, whatever you call them. You go from that, just a regular old company that does a thing, makes a product, to, oh my God, it's Raycons. I've got to get, and they're sold out everywhere. Got to get some. They're sold out. Nobody knew, and even the ones that did know who Raycons were, didn't care until it became Raycons. My point is, how do you make that leap in your head as an intelligent human? And what does that really say about us? Because if you really think about it, you start connecting the dots of how they make these leaps from something that didn't matter to something that is, oh my God, it's the best thing ever, and then it goes back to not mattering. It's entirely artificial, completely made up. The products were there. They were the same products. Something happened to make you hyper aware, and everyone else around you hyper aware of this one thing, and then that made it the thing to get. That says volumes about our species and the way our minds work. That kind of thinking, like that is big time herd mentality. You've changed your perception of not just what you want, but how you see something. You didn't consciously do this. This was done to you. You have changed the way that you saw a pair of freaking earbuds. Yesterday they were nothing. Now they're Raycon. Last year, Stanley just made cups and thermoses. This year, Stanley makes the holy freaking grail. It's not something you came up with on your own. All right, you heard from other people, oh, the Stanley, I got my Stanley. What do you mean you got your Stanley? Oh, suddenly that plants that seed in your head. It's like an inception of an idea. Everybody wants one, so I should want one. It seems harmless, right? For the cup thing, yeah, it's pretty harmless. If a company, or even one person, master of social media advertisement, can do that, what can non-corporate entities do? What can corporate entities with an agenda do? You see, because they've made you think that this is the holy grail, where you didn't care about these, and any company that made these 2 days ago, suddenly it's the one thing you can't live without. No big deal. It's just a product. What's the problem? What if you're not using it for advertisement? If you're like me and you see the nonsense that is going through the world today, right? Like, men can be women, women, can be men can play in women's sport, that kind of stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like the stuff that makes no logical sense at all and is settled, has been settled for centuries. Now it's being called into question. What's wrong is right and right is wrong. That pride is something that you should have as much of as you can get. We wonder to ourselves, how can you believe that? I ask myself that, like, how can they be so delusional to think that communism is a good idea, for instance? I would submit the idea to you that, how were you convinced that last year Stanley wasn't even a thing that you knew of? You might see it in the camping aisle, and that this year it's all you could ever want. We humans like to think we are the pinnacles of, like we control everything. Like we have the ability to destroy the planet. Amount of arrogance, the amount of hubris that shows. That just goes to show just how weak and fragile our minds are. And Stanley Cup, or the new best thing, proves it. You have to be able to look critically at everything, because advertisement, Stanley Cup, right? Crocs. You have to be able to look at these things for what they are. And that means you have to be able to see when it's being done to you, not just for advertisement purposes, but for the stuff that really matters. And I will tell you that right now, there is a campaign to do the same type of thing with something that, matters a little bit more than a freaking cup. Nikki Haley, one of those people running for president, mainstream media, they are doing everything they can to make it appear as though she is a serious contender and she might be one of the nominees for the Republican Party, whatever the hell that is supposed to be anymore. They are trying to make her out to be like an important, one of the ones that may, she may get elected. Bro, she ain't nowhere close to getting elected. Just like Stanley Cup was nowhere close to being the #1 thing everybody wanted until it was. Same kind of campaign. Whenever you see the mainstream media, because I can tell you right now, she got 19% of the caucus vote or whatever in Iowa last night. 19%. Trump got 51. All right. DeSantis was next in line. She got 19. But if you listen to the mainstream media, they make her out to be Trump's contender. Ask yourself, why might that be? Because it's factually incorrect. So why would they be pumping that up via YouTube, via Facebook, via all the social media, via TV, all the little clickable videos that you can get from mainstream media? I mean, they put their own versions out too, right? Because they want to convince you that she's the next big thing you want, right? She's the next greatest thing, the revolutionary product that you never knew you needed. It's the same type of manipulation. And that's all it is. I think it preys on our herd mentality as people, right? Like a lot of people, a lot of different types of people even are drawn to the herd, the idea that they want to be around other people, maybe not all the time, but we are social creatures, okay? We want to feel connected to something bigger than ourselves. But just look at how it can change your entire perception of reality. The facts didn't change. What you saw as fact did change. And when you think about the greater implications and practical uses of this, bro, that's a problem. A big one.